We're going to look at 3 areas of mobility today. So first of all, the T-spine and the rib cage. Secondly, we're going to look at the rotation of the scapula on the rib cage, so the ability to bring the scaps up and the ability to bring the scaps down into the midline. And thirdly, the rotation at the shoulder joint, so the humerus, the upper arm bone, sitting into the shoulder joint. And all 3 of those are going to contribute to a greater range of motion at the shoulder. Better mobility, better range of motion is going to improve your resistance training because we're going to recruit more muscle fibers, which is going to allow hypertrophy of a greater amount of muscle fibers, but also aid your recovery and prevent injury so that we can train more and train better. So first of all, we're going to need a few bits and pieces. So you're going to want to grab some yoga blocks or a foam roller. A ball can help give you some neurological awareness of where you are in space, not a necessity, but good to have. And then also a long strap. It could be a dressing gown cord. Belts tend to be too short, but something along those lines. And if you don't have a strap, you could always use one of your longer resistance bands, although this is going to give you some kind of stretch capacity, which the fixed strap will limit, which has its pluses and minuses to it. So first of all, let's start with the T-spine and the rib cage, or your foam roller. I want you to place that down onto the floor, and we're gonna get it to hit round about the bottom of the shoulder blades. So almost like you're gonna lie on a rock at the beach. You're kind of looking for a place to rest yourself down, to stare out to the sea, and then make sure your tailbone is nice and neutral. You're gonna bring your hands behind the back of your head, cradling your skull, and push your head into your hands so that you're not making this movement with your cervical spine. And then with the head pushing into the hands, drive backwards. So you can see if I didn't have the head pushing into the hands, I could do a lot of this movement with the neck. I want to keep the cervical spine quite still, so I've got a pressure between my head and my hands. And I'm driving the whole structure backwards. So we're going to do 15 here. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then bring yourself up again. Now, working into a little bit of flexibility of the lat tissue. Obviously, if the lats are locked up with any adhesions, that's going to prevent us from getting any range of motion through the joint. So that's something to also consider. So again, using your foam roller or your block, I really recommend a yoga block for this because the foam roller can kind of be a little bit easy on that. And then you're just going to use that edge of the block to work in different positions of the lat. And you're going to roll yourself forwards and backwards, looking to use the pressure of the block to get into some of that tissue. And you can move centimeters up and down to find different locations. And I would recommend pausing the video and setting a timer for a minute and just working in that minute to give yourself an awareness of the tissue and some physical length as well. So we'll switch to the other side here on the video, but as I say, I recommend setting a timer for that. So the grounded arm goes out long, and then you'll be working
I always say to people, if you find that kind of pursing of the lips, blowing air out, then you've probably found a good spot. Okay, lat smash done. Now, a little bit of internal and external rotation. You could do this seated or standing up. I really like kneeling down onto the floor or being grounded because it prevents you from compensating with other areas of the body. Take your ball, if you have one, into your hand and then reach it back and place your opposite hand onto opposite rib, so that you have an awareness of your rib pointing forward. So we'll all start with the ball in our right hand, our left hand onto the right rib, and then really reaching that arm back. I want you to imagine the ball as a door handle, or if you don't have a ball, you imagine you have a door handle in your hand, and you're going to try and turn that door handle all the way open without letting your ribs go backwards. So your ribs are angling forwards. And then you're going to try and shut the door handle, so you're going to rotate the thumb down, 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 right in, as far as it can possibly go, until you feel that squeeze of resistance. And then again, open the door handle wide, 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 wide. And it's like the bottom of your shoulder blade is trying to pick up your heart and push it forwards. And then move between those two spots. And don't rush. There's nothing here in speed. It's all about how slow you drive, the more of the scenery that you see. And again, I would pause the video here and set a timer for 30 seconds and work through that either side. So we'll switch to the other side. My right hand's going to go onto my left rib. My left arm is reaching back in space. I can feel that stretch across my pec, maybe through the bicep. I'm working to keep my left ribs forwards, really stretching the arm backwards, and then I'm going to pretend that ball or my imaginary door handle, and I'm trying to go as far as I can with the thumb to the midline, and then as far as I can with the thumb to the midline in the other direction without compensating at the wrist. So you're trying to do all the rotation from your shoulder. And again, pause the video, set your timer, do your sets and reps. Good, and then release. Okay, back into our seated position, preferably on the floor or a seat. You're going to interlace your hands in front of you and push the palms out. And then round the upper back. So upper back into protraction, shoulders into protraction. And then I want you to have your the backs of your hands right in front of the tips of your nose and really pushing forwards, really pushing forwards, really pushing forwards. And then I want you to imagine that the top of your hands is a steering wheel, and you're going to drive the steering wheel a little bit right. So your right shoulder will move away from your ear and your left shoulder will move towards the corresponding ear. Drive the steering wheel back to center without losing the round through the upper back. And then drive a little bit to the left. And that steering wheel is fixed and you're pushing into it. Back to center, drive a little bit left. Back to center, drive a little bit the other way. Sorry, I said the wrong direction, but you're going right and left, but slowly. And you're still pushing forward, still pushing forward, still pushing forwards. Still pushing forwards in that protraction. So we've got opposite upward rotation to downward rotation. Good, and then back to center. Should feel a little bit of kind of tiredness in the shoulders when that happens. Okay, we're going to take the strap. Now, again, I prefer this in a grounded position because you can see if I stand up and start to do this, that I can start to get wild compensations through my rib cage. And that's the point is not executing the task however you can. The point is executing the task with other things staying still, just like we do in strength training. Now, for some people, again, leave the ego at the door and work with where you're at, because we're only going to make improvements with where we're at. So try not to kind of finagle this any old way. Go super wide if you need to in order to keep the arms straight. So wherever you find your point of resistance, and the first 5 that we'll do, we will allow our ribs to flare out. So we can allow a little bit of spinal movement just to see the difference. Just flossing the shoulders here. So the game is to keep the arms straight and to reach into the spaces as far away from you as possible. So as far away from you behind you, as far away as above you, as far away in front of you. And now, as we move on to our next round, I want you to try and keep your ribs flat. And you may notice this is a little bit more challenging of the shoulders. Again, be honest with yourself. Try to keep the arms really straight and the ribs really flat. And now we're going to turn this into circles. So I'm going to take the strap above me. I'm going to dip the right arm down towards the right. And then I'm going to reach back with the left to let the left dip down and the right lift up. And bring it around. And you can start to find some circles here. So we'll do 4 in the one direction. And 4 in the other direction. Great, and then bringing it down. Okay, let's open up the pack a little bit. So we're going to lie down onto the floor, belly down. And I'm going to show you on the right arm first. So take your right arm out with the wrist, the elbow in line with your right shoulder. Turn your head to the left and then roll your right shoulder so that the shoulder tip finds the floor, so it finds a stability. And then you're going to start to roll onto your right hip until you find some sensation there. You want the right shoulder pushing down into the floor, and you're using your body weight to move that right shoulder onto the back body. And again, you can set a timer to be here. And then back. And we'll do the same on the other side. So left arm out in line with left shoulder. Look to the right, roll the left shoulder down so you find the floor. And then moving to the left. And then we're going to do one more version of this in a kind of fixed bent elbow position as well. So bringing it back. Now you're going to take your right arm in a bent position, so 90 degrees, so right fingertip stacked over the right elbow in line with the right shoulder. You will get less movement here. And again, sort of navigate your pressure into the floor so you can feel your right shoulder draw down your back body. And to center, we move to the other side. Left shoulder down your back body. And we bring it back. Okay, let's practice some strength with that upward and downward rotation of the scaps. So taking 2 yoga blocks just gives you a little bit more space to play with. We're going to put the forearms down onto the yoga blocks. So you want to make sure they're directly underneath the shoulders. Come into a plank or knees down as you choose, whichever kind of level you're working at. And then I want you to think of sinking your sternum towards the floor, so you're kind of gapping between your shoulder blades and your rib cage. And then push to fill that space. So protracting the shoulder blades, filling the space, pushing the rib cage to the shoulders, and then sink the sternum so that you gap again. And then push, and then sink the sternum so you gap again. Push, gap, push, gap. You can stay in plank, but I'll just demonstrate this from the knees. So push and gap, push and gap, push and gap. Very nice, good. Okay, relax and take a few shoulder rolls. Forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. Then we're going to do a little bit of activation here. So grab hold of your strap and you're going to hold on to it with the palms facing up to the sky, and you're going to actively pull it apart at shoulder distance. So really, really pulling apart at shoulder distance. And I want you to feel your armpits pushing towards the floor and a kind of activation of the posterior rotator cuff. Pull, pull, pull apart. At this moment in time, the strap will be in front of your nipples. Keep the ribs down. And then I want you to do a row where you're going to bend your elbows next to your ribs, bringing the strap towards your belly button, but keep pulling the strap apart. And then slowly extend the arms out. You still start to feel quite shaky. Palms are facing up to the sky. You're pulling the strap apart very, very strongly. You can feel your posterior rotator cuff. Strap is in front of the nipples, and then you're going to bend the elbows and bring the strap towards the belly button. We're going to take 2 more if you've got the energy for it. So pull the strap apart, extend the arms. You can feel those scapula trying to wrap to the midline. Do your row. Extend. And do your row. And extend and release. You should feel super, super tired in those shoulders. And then last thing I want to do is a little bit of a game. You can do this with a 1 kilogram plate, a saucer, if you don't mind the possibility of it breaking, a yoga block. Yoga block tends to be a little more challenging because of the height of it, but you can always kind of hold on to it with thumb and baby finger, which is kind of a little bit of a cheat. But basically, we're trying to balance that block. And I'm just going to stand up and move back here so you can see me. So we're going to start. This is a kind of neurological connection with all the different positions of the shoulders, because the first place that we need to develop mobility is mind-body connection, is to get the brain moving in that pattern. So we're going to start with external rotation. So with my block at the side, my elbow connected to my side, I'm going to pass it out. And then I'm going to start to take it behind me, bring it over my head, and I need to move my spine in order for that to happen, and then bring it back around. So out to the side, around, over my head, and then I need to pass it underneath my armpits. So, and then just finding that pattern. So I'll do it from the front. So out to the side, you can feel that scapula is trying to push onto the back body, over my head, and then I internally rotate to return it back around. So from the side, that is taking the block out to the side, behind me, over my head, back around and under my armpits. And you can start to speed that up once you've got the pattern. Please don't worry if you feel kind of uncoordinated. This took me a lot of goes to try and do. And you'll probably find your non-dominant arm is less clever than your dominant arm. So if you started with the right, moving now over to the left. So we pass it out to the side, back around, and under and around. Out to the side, back and around, under and around. And ideally, I'm having to hold on to the yoga block because of it's rectangular. But if it was a circle, like a 1 kilogram plate, the game would be to try not to use your thumb and your baby finger to grip it, so that you have to use the position of the shoulders to make sure it doesn't fall off your hand. Okay, so that's external rotation. Shift the block back to the other hand, and now we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to bring the block from outside in, pass it around, over the head, and back to start position. Pass it in, up and around, and back to start position. Passing it in, back and around. And this is the kind of thing that you could do, you know, kind of in between being at your desk or whilst you're waiting for your eggs to boil, is just grab something and teach the shoulder to move. You are not necessarily going to be able to do it on its first go, but the more you can get signal into those shoulders, the better that they are eventually going to move for you. So taking it to the other side, it's our last little go. So we're going to bring the shoulder into internal rotation, take it around and up and over. The shoulder into internal rotation, external, internal, internal to external. And so on. And then at the end of this session, which hard for me to demonstrate here on camera, but you could also go and do your dead hangs and play with this rotation of external rotation, internal rotation in your dead hangs. Play with the position of your ribs so that you know whether it's coming from upper back or whether it's truly coming from shoulder flexion. And you can also do your scap shrugs. And you can start your scap shrugs simply by the external rotation and depression of the shoulders. And lots of that should feel much, much better. Keep adding this in. I would suggest doing this at least twice a week if you're working on improving your shoulder mobility.